We will protect you.
Greetings and salutations, guys. I'm here with my review of The Fantastic Four First Steps. This is one of the situations where I just saw the movie, but I have to record this right away because the review embargo lifts tomorrow morning. Never ideal. I always wish I had more time to think about a movie than when they give you these quick turnarounds. But I'm also kind of riding the high of seeing a movie that I had such a good time with because I found this movie utterly delightful. This is the 37th MCU film, but finally they're tackling Marvel's first family, the Fantastic Four. Kind of the characters who started it all in 1961, the first ever Marvel Comics proper heroes, the ones that really led the entire kind of huge burst of characters that we got throughout the 1960s, mostly created by Stan Lee and Jack Kirby. There's been many Fantastic Four movies, of course. This is the fifth one, if you include the one in the 90s that never got released, but none of them have ever got it right, fully right, until now. This one, I think, really nails the essence of the Fantastic Four, the feel of it. I always loved the idea of them doing a movie set in the 60s. At one point, that was going to be the approach when Peyton Reed was going to make Fantastic Four in the early 2000s. And the way they did it here, where it's a alternate reality that has a retro future 1960s feel, is perfect. It really works, really fits the characters and everything about the feel of the Fantastic Four and the era in which they were created. And I was hopeful from the trailers, even though they didn't quite blow me away. But watching the full movie, I think, yeah, everything really came together here. Just kind of the way I wanted it to as a longtime comic book fan and as a longtime Fantastic Four fan. Matt Shakman, who directed this, directed WandaVision, which I think is one of the MCU's best projects. And like in that project, he brings this sort of great eye for doing this very purposeful sort of throwback feel to a superhero story that also is sort of interweaving with a story that you can connect to and characters that you can deeply connect to. I loved all four of the leads here. I think that Pedro Pascal, Vanessa Kirby, Ebon Moss-Bachrach, and Joseph Quinn, they all feel like the characters that I've always known as the Fantastic Four, and they nailed the family dynamic. Look, the Fantastic Four are a family. That gets repeated a lot whenever people are describing them. It was said in the trailers a lot, but it is a very crucial part of this team and what makes them different from any other superhero team. And I think that this movie completely captures that interplay. You believe that these people are very close and loving, and the Ben and Johnny sort of bantering, that sort of brotherly dynamic, and Reed and Sue, who are a longtime couple here, you can kind of fully invest in them. I wondered from the trailers if Pedro Pascal was kind of giving too little, which is funny for an actor who's so charismatic, but I think it really works in the context of the movie. Of Reed Richards as, the smartest man alive, but someone who is very interior. And here, in a movie that's pretty lighthearted, but has some, not dark elements, but has some elements that are, pretty intense going for it. Reed is the character that kind of has a lot of angst, and I really like how that's kind of interweaves through the film. The fact that Reed here has a lot of guilt about the fact that he screwed up on the mission that turned them into the Fantastic Four, and kind of carries that with him. And I think that Pascal really nails that. Ebon Moss-Bachrach is just such a perfect bit of casting, has Ben Grimm. And that character who is, this big monster, literally, and yet so innately lovable. It exudes through him. Obviously, this is a performance that is all about the digital creation of the Thing mixing with the real man's performance, but I think that they really capture that, and you see sort of the warmth in his eyes. But I kind of think that the stars of the show here are the Storm siblings, Johnny and Sue. I really love what they do with both the characters, and I also love what the performers do with them. Joseph Quinn, he's not maybe quite the sort of super bravado character that, say, we saw Chris Evans play in the 2000s Fantastic Four movies, and which was one of the better parts of those movies, but he still is a brash character. He still is sort of the goofy guy on the team, and I think Quinn really captures that well, makes him still very likable character. He has a nice sort of runner about what he thinks of the Silver Surfer. We'll get back to her in a moment in this movie. that makes me really like the character throughout the movie. And then Vanessa Kirby has Sue, who, is the sort of center of this team in a lot of ways, and sort of a very big grounding force in the team, and maybe can kind of be a connective tissue because Reed can be so interior. She can kind of bring out the warmth in him, but also bring out the warmth, have them as a couple more than he might do on his own. I really loved her in this movie. She's been so great in the last few years in so many films, a lot of action films like Mission Impossible and Hobbs and Shaw, but she really holds the screen here as Sue, who often in the comics they say is probably maybe the most powerful member of the team, and we get that here. Without them articulating it, they don't need to say it out loud. We just see it, and it's really impressive. Yes, this movie is once more tackling Galactus and the Silver Surfer, which was the center of 2007's Fantastic Four: Rise of Silver Surfer, but this is a much better version of that story. Yes, first and foremost, because Galactus is not a cloud in this version. He is a big, giant alien, as he is in the comic books. And he's played by the great Ralph Ineson, who just has this amazing presence as this character. Seeing him in that full armor, that full Jack Kirby look on screen, making it sell, putting him on screen so that he looks like this giant above them, mixing it with the effects. Galactus himself has just a wonderful aura around him in this movie, as he should. And there's been a lot of movies where we've seen a lot of giants, whether they be people or giant kaiju, smashing through a city. I still think this movie manages to do some new things with it, or just really sell it in a way that only gets done once in a while. The weight of Galactus walking through New York City, and what that would really mean if he interacted with anything. That if he jumped down into the water, what that would do. If he leaned on a building, what that would do. If he was walking above you, what it would look like. I feel like this movie kind of puts you in the mix of that in a way that, I'm not going to say no movie has ever done, because like I said, there's been a lot of freaking movies with giant creatures or people or aliens walking among us. But I think this movie is one of the best examples of that, of really kind of selling the reality of that situation. And man, do I love the look of this movie. The whole sort of mid-century modern retro future look it has, where it's taking the idea of the 1960s as they really were, but also the way the 1960s saw the future and how they imagined the future, including in Fantastic Four comics, and what, amazing devices and things might look like, and what a genius might invent, but, building off of what 1960s technology would do with that. It looks so great. All of the sets look so great. There's these record players, for instance, like they save recordings on giant metal records. I know that's funny that I have a record player right next to me as I say this. And the devices they play that on look so cool. All throughout the film are these great examples of what the tech is like for the Fantastic Four here. And I loved it. It was like one of those times where I was like, they need to make this some sort of permanent exhibit somewhere at one of the Disney parks or something, because it looks that good that this is something where I know myself personally, but I think a lot of other people would love to kind of walk around in this world that they've created here. The cinematographer is Jess Hall. He did the cinematography on WandaVision, working alongside Matt Shakman, the director. And the production designer, not really a shock here, is that it is Kasra Farahani, who was a production designer on Loki. Obviously, there are some similarities here between the look of the TVA in that series and how it's also doing a sort of similar mid-century modern thing. But I think they get to go even bigger with it here. And on a color palette, they get to go sort of bolder and brighter here, just because of the mood of this movie and how it is, projecting a bright, cheerful reality. It's very funny this movie is opening the same month as Superman, because it really feels like a turning point where both these movies are this huge pivot to kind of this very inspirational, optimistic look at superheroes, but also, maybe the world that they live in after some darker stuff through the years, having these be characters that the world celebrates, that are sort of, looked up to. But there's actually some pretty funny similarities on the plot side. It's just obviously a total coincidence because they're opening like 2 weeks apart. But even the way they begin, the fact that in both movies, the heroes have been heroes for a few years and are well established. This movie kind of builds up the rogues gallery a little more than Superman, both through some name drops, but we get some little glimpses of some of the villains that they fought that are characters pulled from the comics. But even the third act has some pretty big echoes of Superman. Just a funny thing. And yes, both movies have kind of a plot point where at one point the public might potentially turn on the heroes that they've loved so much for very different reasons, but because of stuff going on throughout the storyline. But you know what else is similar about both these movies? They're just both freaking great. They make me so happy that they're out right now and that they both accomplish what they're doing. Because there's one thing to say, we're going to make a bright, cheerful superhero movie, an optimistic superhero movie. You could still make a bad movie or a movie that fails to accomplish that goal. I think Fantastic Four First Steps, like Superman, very much accomplishes what it's setting out to do. And it's funny because it's this alternate reality. It's not set in the prime MCU. But I think that lets it really stand on its own. It has a very unique vibe, a very unique feel for the MCU. It does not feel like the same. And not that I think every MCU project felt the same anyway. But this one I think really gets to just do something that you haven't felt the other films have done. Now, also, this is coming out just a couple months after Thunderbolts, a movie that I also thought had a unique vibe. So after starting out the year on a pretty weak note with Captain America Brave New World, a movie that I didn't think was awful, but I also thought was pretty so-so, I'm very happy that the last couple now have been Thunderbolts and now Fantastic Four First Steps, because I think that these are really, if we're looking for the MCU to turn things around, which I think on one hand is overblown, on the other there's legitimate complaints to make about some of the decisions and some of the things that have happened the last few years, and some of the projects. I think that these two films are ones that feel completely different from one another, and yet both stand out as just feeling like, hey, we're doing something different here, and we're just creating a really good film where you can really invest in the characters and the story. And both those movies made me want to see more of these characters. Good news, I'm going to see all those characters again in Avengers Doomsday next year. So we know that's coming. And I hope that movie works, because now that I love so many of the characters that are going to be in it, I want that movie to, completely nail it, because now I see that these characters can really triumph. They have now in their own team movies. And so now we're going to see how it works when they're all bouncing off each other and a bunch of other characters. Really, I have no major complaints about this movie. If I have one minor one, it is the Silver Surfer. Julia Garner, great actress. I have zero complaints about them making the Silver Surfer here a woman. What? No, it's Shia LaBeouf, a character from the comics. Totally works. Really cool introduction for her. There's some really fun action sequences involving her and visuals as she kind of surfs amongst sort of lava and different things as she's flying along. I just wish the character maybe got a little more screen time and a little more time to kind of get her perspective. The Silver Surfer classically is the Herald of Galactus, but a conflicted character who is not intrinsically evil. That, of course, is the case here. But there's more time spent with Johnny and him kind of talking about her and sort of studying her than there is with the character itself. And I do think the character maybe could have gotten one or two more scenes to sort of flesh her out a little bit more. I'd be very remiss if I didn't mention Michael Giacchino's score. It's not like he needs to prove anything at this point. It's not like he needs to prove anything when it comes to making a great score about four heroes living in a retro 1960s-esque reality, given he did the Incredibles score. But yes, he delivers something that is one of his best. I've been trying to avoid using fantastic for anything here, but God damn it, I'm just going to say it. It's a fantastic score. It really is. Fantastic score. I even went for the rhyme without meaning to. But no, it is wonderful and rousing and emotional. And yes, that main theme, the one you're hearing in the trailers where they actually have the, choir singing Fantastic Four, is so perfect. I can't get it out of my head, but that's a good thing because I love it. Like I love this movie. So yeah, as you can tell, I am pretty high on Fantastic Four First Steps. Look, again, am I an easy mark when it comes to Marvel? Yeah, probably, in that I am a lifelong Marvel fan. I, by and large, have loved the MCU. I haven't loved every single thing, and I certainly think that they have had some of their weakest projects ever in the last few years. But when I compare this to some of those low points, like, say, Quantumania, which is another movie that was kind of going for some big, bold imagery, but then nothing had weight to it. Nothing really felt real. It certainly didn't have a story that really connected. And I compare that to what they do with Fantastic Four First Steps. They are just night and day. This one just really feels like confident and self-assured, and like they really knew the tone they were going for, and they really managed to perfectly capture it. It finally happened. After all this time, we have a great Fantastic Four movie. It's too bad it took this many tries, but, man, that 2015 movie was bad. But now we have this one to atone for the errors of the past. All right, guys, those are my thoughts on the Fantastic Four First Steps in theaters everywhere this weekend. If you can like and subscribe, that would be fantastic. I'll throw it out one more time. Why not?